Okay, good morning. This is the Economic Development, Historic Preservation, and Environmental Conservation Committee. I have in the room Matt Yetto, Susan Posinelli. We have a representative of Schenectady Land Bank today, David Hogenkamp, Kenneth Brennan, Clark Henry, Jamie Puccioni, Kevin Walsh, and Dart Strayer. I just put you at the very beginning, David, so you don't even have to listen to the minutes or public concern. So if you just want to go ahead, I have your documents too if you want to put them on the screen.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. I know a lot of you. I was on the Streets Committee before, resident here in Stiuna, so David Hogenkamp. I'm expecting Metroplex Development Authority. We administer the Capital Region Land Bank, the Schenectady Land Bank. We also do work in the city of Amsterdam. Are people familiar with the land bank, or give a bit of an overview? Land banks were started in 2011, 2012 in New York State to start dealing with some of the residential property issues due to vacancy and abandonment with the mortgage foreclosure crisis, 2008, 2009. A lot of settlement funds into the land banks to start really doing the work in our most troubled areas with demolition and renovation. People often think land banks is dealing just in urban areas, but there are 20-something land banks across the state that are in rural, suburban, and urban areas. Different challenges in different communities. Here in Stiuna, obviously we have some problem properties, and a lot of the issues with those are maybe somebody passed away or there's a foreclosure of them. And then there's this long period of time until the problem is resolved and it can go on to productive use for a homeowner or something like that. Since land banks were developed, a lot of tools have came on board to assist moving this process along. And we've really turned our attention to focusing on that. So as I said, the Capital Region Land Bank started in 2012, we brought about $9.1 million to Schenectady County and the city of Amsterdam to do some revitalization work. We demolished over 200 structures, created 250 units of new housing. Just in Niskayuna, 2 Cornelius Avenue was a problem property. We were able to accept that as a bank donation with some funds to then get it to a new to a contractor who decided he was enjoying the work so much that he moved his family there. 1019 Van Antwerp, which has been in the news. That's one that we're just recently started to get involved with. The county was to foreclose on it. So we are taking title to that and looking for the best use in the long run. Hopefully it can be renovated. And we're working on finding a homeowner situation for that. So we've been doing some work in this unit. The issue we're bringing to you right now is that we'd like to enter into intermunicipal agreement, memorandum of understanding between the county, the town, and the land bank to really work on vacant and abandoned property issues in the town of Niskayuna. A few different things. One is to accelerate the foreclosure process on properties that are properly notified as vacant and abandoned. Pre-COVID, 2019, the state changed the law, allowing you to go down to a 1 year of past due taxes. The county has waited 4 years historically, which creates, if someone passes away and there's no heirs and that property just sits, maybe it's not winterized for 4 years, it's expensive and really quite a terrible situation for neighbors to have to deal with that. The county has agreed to accelerate that foreclosure, but there is a process that has to be done through the town to properly notify, go through all the legal hurdles to be able to do that. We have funding to be able to lead that process, and we'd like to have the town of Niskayuna kind of serve as the roadmap for us to bring this out to the towns and create the institutional knowledge to really effectively handle these issues. That's number one, and probably the majority of our time will be focused on that. 2, there's other things you can do. The town can go through an abandonment proceeding. We'd like to help with that if we can. There's issues with vacant abandoned properties, taking care of those properties. This MOU gives us kind of broad strokes to work together and come up with a plan to really effectively be able to tell our neighbors, our citizens, that we are addressing these issues to bring the properties back on the tax rolls and have a good situation. Any specific questions?
What is the major holdup with these zombie homes and getting title? Doesn't a bank ultimately own that home until it's foreclosed on?
Yeah, so the term zombie property really came up from specifically after 2008, 2009, where there was such a glut of inventory that came through, and banks don't necessarily want to just go take title. They can keep it in a period of zombie ownership. They don't own it, but they have the right to take it. So what happens in between is really nobody's responsibility. You know, someone could have passed away 3 years ago, but it's still technically in their name. They might still be paying taxes, and that's a big piece of this too, is that the county is the foreclosing government unit. So, you know, they have a stake in this because they make the taxes whole. You know, as a town, you want to get the most tax revenue in, but you also want the best situation for the properties, long-term situation. So we're trying to find a solution that is efficient for all parties and allows us to, you know, if it's a situation where a bank doesn't want to foreclose or maybe they're just not focused on it, if we work effectively with code enforcement for 2 Cornelius, because we did this in kind of a one-off, we got their attention and they said something along the lines, we've never seen so many violations on a property. And that allowed us to accept the property for free, and we actually got a $20,000 donation. So
that's really the key, to force the issue, to get the bank to come to the table. And that's
it takes all parties. The county can't foreclose early if that work hasn't been done. The town, you know, you don't have the ability to foreclose. You could take a different route with the abandonment, but it's time consuming. Towns aren't usually set up to also own residential properties. And so that's where we come in as kind of an intermediary to move this along.
And the county generally waits, what, 2 years?
4 years.
4 years.
4 years, yeah.
Yes. And if everything is working right with our cooperation, what does that shrink that time down to approximately?
Yeah, 1 year past due taxes, and then there's a 90-day there's 90-day notification process.
And then the process can start. So hopefully within 2 years, maybe it'll be a change of ownership.
Yep, yeah, and that will, and the land bank will have the ability. The county is very helpful if we have a strategic purpose for a property, whether it's you know, we know that once the home ownership or maybe the building is so far gone, we don't want to just sell it to someone who's going to sit on it and then 4 years later we'll see the same issue. So we can demolish it if needed. So yeah, you know, that's our purpose, to find the best use moving forward.
So if you come in and demolish a building, who foots the bill for that?
The land bank. Yeah, we put the bill. The county does provide funding for the land bank. You know, we're a pretty efficiently administered organization. I'm either wearing my Metroplex hat or my land bank hat. The reason we've kept it lean is because there hasn't been a consistent funding source for the land bank. $9 million, give or take, of that settlement fund. So when Bank XYZ took all those mortgages, diced them up, and put them into securities, the New York Attorney General sued them, and millions of dollars came back to the state, and they funded the land bank program to deal with it. The state last year, since that money has since run out of the settlement funds, they created a state funding program to fund land banks, both for kind of administrative functions of projects like these, but then for future projects as well. So if we need to renovate a property or to demolish a property, there's been grant funding available for that. When we sell properties too, we make money so that we can continue to do this work. If there is properties that come through the Niskayuna process of abandonment, part of the agreement states that that funding will stay in a Niskayuna fund, so that we have it if there's problem properties that we need to deal with.
Oh, okay. So the funds stay local.
Yeah.
And you say there's about 22 million right now that you have to work with this county and parts of, is it Montgomery County?
So we've received 9 million. There's, you're talking about funding?
Yes.
There's new state, they allocated 75 million to land banks across the state. So we'll have to come up with a program to apply for funding.
Okay.
So, we'll do that. The county has been very helpful the past few years with ARPA funds to fund our activity as well. So it's not endless money, but we try to efficiently move these properties. If we find the right individual, whether it's a homeowner, we really, there are programs available for homeowners to have some mortgage programs with grants to really take on these vacant properties. We try to find that right person, walk them through the steps. If we can't find that person and we need to, either renovate or demolish, we do that.
And then sell it. Yes. That's great.
Yeah, it's a great tool, and everyone hates that one property on the street, right? That just continues to drag on your wanting to make investment in your property, your value, the next door neighbor is an insurance issue. So it's just good government to use the tools available.
Yeah, it brings the whole surrounding area down with it.
In the memorandum, what requirements do the town has to supply?
Really, you're just agreeing to work with us to have code enforcement go through the processes that our legal team, Whiteman, Osterman, Hannah, who represents us, will prescribe the steps needed if we agree to work on a specific property.
Okay, so you're really primarily looking for support from the town that the town would normally do anyway.
Normally do, but there's a lot of investments the town has to make. It might not be a focus area. So if we're going to invest the resources to create this program, it's just that we're working together. And at the end of the day, when a property comes through, whether it comes to the town or the county, it's laying out kind of the steps of who's responsible for what. The county, if we want a property that we've spent $10,000 legal resources on, we have the ability to take the property. So that kind of just understanding.
It's also very helpful because we are, maxed out workload wise, and we can't always come up with the notices that are going to be like the most efficient for getting these homes on the path. And so the land bank is like providing us with forms. Those were in your packets that the building inspectors can use. And I mean, it seems pretty simple, but we wouldn't even be able to develop these forms. So they're part of the MOU is that they're giving us this assistance so that our forms can line up with whatever they need and that we could be more efficient at our job. And I think it's really just a help and an extension of what we really, can do, but need the time to do. But they're able to do that for us so that we can all work together.
Yeah, the worst case scenario is, the processes, if you don't hit them specifically, the judge throws out your foreclosure action. Or you end up with a property where you don't have the title, which is another whole process that you have to re-foreclose. So we want to come up with the framework so that we can do this in the town of Glendale, Village of Scotia, and other places to get it right so that we can move these properties effectively.
Yeah, the problem has always been getting the bank or the owner to bring this to a head and make a move on it. And that all comes back to the enforcement issue on the local level. But a lot of these small towns just don't have the manpower and the legal team to, really put them into effect at an efficient pace. So this is going to solve that problem.
Absolutely.
And that enforcement brings the bank or whoever that prior owner is to say, look, if we don't do something, now it's going to cost us tens of thousands of dollars.
We lose the property and there's value.
Sure.
We work with some properties that don't have value.
Just kind of really forces the issue. And from our standpoint, I mean, to do that, how many zombie houses we have, it would require many additional employees. I'd imagine one, right? To do what we want to do efficiently without them would be a substantial undertaking for the town. So this is a great cooperative agreement.
Yeah, it's very helpful to my department. I think I speak for Elena, it's very helpful to her department. It's already been helpful with the stuff she provided for us. So this would be the formalized memorandum of understanding is attached to the packet. It's online. You can go ahead and read it. I can pull it up if you have any questions about it. I'm very much in support of it, and I think it's very helpful for our department and our town.
So we'll have to do a resolution to accept the MOU.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. Very good.
The county has, as the land bank has as well, so would be the last step.
Excellent.
How many properties do we have that might qualify?
Well, there's two kinds of properties. There's the bank-owned ones that register and are required to register, and then there's like the estate-owned or the privately owned ones that are actually not being lived in, but they don't show up on the registry. So like between those, we're probably like, I don't know, 20, 30 maybe, but
Yeah, it's for spot action, and this will be great for folks who live in the community now to have a understanding. There is a process that can be followed, a roadmap that, hey, this property is set vacant for 3 months. Okay, well, we'll check if it's paying taxes. If it's not paying taxes, we take this path. If it is paying taxes, but it's just abandoned, there's another path. And so, properties will come and go. It's not like in some of the other areas I work in where there's this mass of vacant abandoned properties. It's kind of spot action.
I think in New Hampshire, they do turn over slowly by themselves, but sometimes it takes them 10 to 15 years to turn over. Yeah. And so,
Yeah, there was one in Hexham Gardens that probably took.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, I think the prior owner was some type, a hoarder type of person. So the inside of the house was just a wreck, and it didn't sold. It sat there for years.
Yeah.
And that's if it's not paying taxes.
Yeah.
It's called county too for
But
4
they-
years. So everyone can really benefit from moving this along.
but those ones do pay taxes. Like a lot of
Yeah,
the
you're
homes
right.
in our
Yeah.
New Hampshire, the homes, they do pay taxes. So I think that's why it's helpful also to have these checklists. And the second, because I'm sort of jumping ahead, we have the memorandum of understanding with Schenectady County for resolution. Then we also have amendments to our local law because we adopted the vacant building registration, which is another way that we can leverage, I think, the homes that are paying taxes, because I would say even more of the vacant homes in this unit still pay taxes in some form or another, like the estate is just automatically sending the check or something. The land bank was able to look at our vacant building registration code and come up with some things that needed to be adjusted so that our code is going to be in conformance with their processes and the New York State law. And so there's not like a lot of changes that need to be made. Some of it is just like if you look at the forms that our building inspectors would fill out to certify like when something is abandoned, there's this language which we didn't have, like overgrown or dead vegetation, accumulation of trash, refuse, and other debris. So like this would make our code match the forms that our building inspectors would send out to vacant homes. It still allows, I think, for the registration and collection of fees for vacant homes. One thing that we have to talk about, which Elena isn't here, so maybe just David, you and I and Elena could talk about, is that our code has a 90-day process, and that's longer than needed. So, but I mean, maybe that's something we want, something to decide. And then our code also has a removal from the ability to be certified abandoned. I think that's because we wanted people to be able to say, okay, I'm living in the house now. But that's something that we have to look at too, how to do that removal. But they're pretty small changes. They're in the packet. We had a certificate of abandonment, and this is an affidavit of abandonment, again, so that just matches with New York State law and with what the process would be for the unloading. And the last thing that was in your packet were steps that the building inspector and that the land bank would keep together to give you an idea of how it would work for foreclosure. So go ahead and take a look at all of that. But my recommendation is to do the resolution entering the memorandum of understanding and introduce the local law, which would amend our vacant building registration and call for a public hearing.
I think it's a good idea. Absolutely.
No, I would agree. I mean, having a vacant house in the neighborhood really does put stress on the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a
Anything
win.
we can do to facilitate it.
Sure, and then it's a win financially too for the municipalities involved. Plus, it takes a big workload off of town in trying to get that property up to code. I mean, we did do that with the house on Townsend a bit. We were trying to do code enforcement, but they were actually keeping the outside of the house
Yeah,
somewhat.
so to be fair, it doesn't take the workload off of us completely, but
Mhm.
it is making our efforts, I think it's leveraging our efforts so that they're much more powerful, right? I mean, our building inspectors are still the ones that have to do the inspections. They're still the ones that have to write the notices. But before, where it was kind of a hodgepodge of, okay, this building had, you know, gutters coming down, we'll cite them for the gutters, give them 14 days, we'd have to keep track of them. It wasn't truly like proceeding with an abandonment process that would actually like light the fire under the abandonment. We're just dealing with, you know, code violations as they occur. And so I think that this makes our efforts much more, you know, streamlined and more useful, and like, you know, them doing an inspection, they can do it 3 times and then it goes into the courts. They're not out there every day. But I mean, our guys, this is still workload that my guys are taking on. There's no question.
But
It's going to be more.
the land bank is facilitating the process at a high level.
Right. So
So
it's just like
that's
our
that's a big leverage.
It's making the efforts worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 years later, they're not doing the same. thing.
Right,
Hopefully
right,
they'll see
yeah.
some progress, you know, and they'll understand the value of.
Mhm.
David, how long has this been in place? And since you're reducing the initial action from 4 years to 1 year, I'm just wondering, do you have enough statistics yet to know, is it literally taking 25% as long as it used to take to close out on one of these homes? Or
Yeah, so the state changed the law to 1 year right before COVID, and then there was the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. The 4-year period is what the county decided to do. The city of Schenectady, which is its own foreclosing entity, I believe it's 2 years on commercial properties, 3 years on residential. So it used to be a minimum of 2 years, and now just for vacant and abandoned, it's 1 year. So the great thing about that part of this process is that as long as we do this local work and do the notifications the right way, it's no additional work for the county at that point. We just have to time it with their foreclosure process, and then it's the same notifications, it's the same, you know, redemption period. So we're just kind of lining these properties up for them to do their work. So it won't be any more time than it is for a normal foreclosure, which usually happens annually for the county. I think they start around mid-winter, February, March, and they try to have control of the properties by summer.
great, thank you.
Does anybody have any more questions for David? That's the next one.
If anybody knows a homeowner or a prospective homeowner who wants to have a vacant property and we can help work with them to renovate it, 1019 Van Antwerp, we're taking control from the county. So just let me know. It's people who are willing to put in some of the sweat equity. It's a nice way to get your home in this unit. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, David.
Yeah, 1019 is a really good example of a ton of work the town took in to try and take it over, and then having the judge tell us that we couldn't have it after a year of a lot of effort. So
For a technicality,
Yeah.
that's what we want to make sure doesn't happen.
So it's a year down the drain.
A lot of legal.
Yeah.
You know.
an effort, yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll walk you out, David.
So John, all we had done is just a roll call and then David's presentation.
All right.
So for public concern, I didn't receive any. I don't know if anybody else has gotten any.
Very good. And that brings us to the minutes of October.
So move that we accept the minutes. in the October 7th.
I'll second that.
Are there any opposed? All are in favor, so that will pass unanimously. And off to resolutions.
So the only resolution in addition to the two that we just discussed, which I put that can go forward, is I was put in touch with a potential intern to the planning and building department from the University of Albany. He is a master's student in planning and needs a certain amount of hours in government in order to graduate. I think it's very timely because we've got the comprehensive plan going. We've got a lot of data that we could use, some number crunching and some, GIS updates and all kinds of things. That it's very helpful to have a master's student to be able to do. Clark and I, we do as much as we can, but we're also completely overwhelmed with the amount of work we have. So I'm meeting with him today. His resume, I emailed it to you in the email, and as long as all goes well, I would like to appoint him to the planning and building department. I think he'd be very helpful with the comprehensive plan specifically. I have it in budget, and I think that it would be a benefit to the department for right now.
Yeah, and from the comp plan, if he can lend a hand compiling stuff,
All right,
providing
Sure.
value, that's great.
Yeah, it's different than like a high school student. Like if I give a master planning student a task to compile. something
Yeah,
for the
no,
comp plan, I think we should be able
it's gonna
to do
get
it.
done.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
excellent. All right.
Okay. I didn't have anything under discussion. Do you want to just jump to planning board, Kevin?
Sure. I'll try to give a brief update, an update from our last economic development meeting. Some recent actions from the planning board, Balltown Road Memento, the ZBA recommendation, that's on the ZBA agenda for this October for an area variance. Storage on Balltown Road, that's all been approved, and so has Rosada Gas Station over on Union for their remodel, additional remodel. And Van Antwerp, 2-lot subdivision, minor subdivision was also approved last meeting, along with the tenant change for Hickory Farms. Stuff that we're working on, of course, Rivers Ledge, waiting for them to come back. Empire Drive, 2-lot minor subdivision there. The big thing there is TDE comments and resolution by the applicant. Knott Street, we broke it in. We did have a public hearing, but right now that's on hold to determine whether to move forward or not, based on the application. And let's see, really, things are important. Retail smoke shop coming to Mansion Square. I believe that'll be on the agenda for the November 14th meeting. And 1748 Union Street, across from Stewart's there in Schenectady. What's the name of that bank that used to be there next door? Was it M&T?
I don't know.
There was a bank right next door,
Yes.
but they want to have both properties, and they want to turn this single family home into a mixed use building. So they'll be retail or something on the first floor. Apartments on the second floor. That sounds good, actually.
Is that the small building next to Dunkin' Donuts there, or is it further up?
It's a brick building, kind of sets back off the road, right across from almost where you come out on Van Antwerp to Union. If you look to the right, you
Yeah.
know.
It's actually like right across from the Rosada Mart.
Right, it was the development where the developer wanted to take down the building,
Yeah.
the parking lot there.
Yeah.
Fast, yeah, for a
For fast.
not fast food, what do they call that?
Chicken.
Takeout.
Takeout, yeah.
They don't call it fast food.
No.
You know. Yeah.
So that's a definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a seems like a nice.
No, that's a good building.
It is a
Yeah.
nice little brick.
Yeah.
It's nice to
building.
be saved and absolutely. We'll see what happens. We're waiting on the applicant.
Yeah.
Stuff that's new that came in, basically Holocaust Memorial coming back. They want to build a berm and they want some signage. It'll be their permanent signage, but it'll also contain a temporary portion, so it'll be future home of the memorial. And
Did they get funding, have they said, or?
they have, but they haven't disclosed how well they're doing. But it sounds like they've got enough to go forward with signage at least.
Right.
So, yep. And Belltown Road, the old Aqueduct Animal Hospital, which is the Whitmore property. That's a 6-unit now, right?
Yeah.
And they're applying for 2 more 6-unit buildings plus a garage over there that's going to require a use variance. So we just started those conversations. We're going to have to make a recommendation to the zoning board of appeals on that one. So that's an interesting one. And Mohawk Golf Club, this hasn't been in front of the planning board yet, but they have made application for 11 townhomes, which is 22 units, off of Ruffner Road, off that property that they bought.
How many buildings is that?
It's 11 buildings, 22 homes, 11 buildings. The problem there is that there's significant number of area variances are going to be required. So we have to make a recommendation on that.
I thought they were thinking about townhomes or something.
This is townhomes, but there are 11 townhomes.
But they're gonna run into the same problem they ran by council. I mean, by the farm, not by the pharmacists.
Yes, right.
They took away their application for an average density development, so they're just going with the area variances, which is exactly the same path as the CVS townhome application.
Yeah.
What's happening
Which
with
was
that?
denied.
It's
Still in the court.
litigation waiting for the court decision.
How long has it been for the judge?
A long time.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's got to be over there.
Not over a year.
No?
It was definitely this year, but it was like the beginning of this
Yeah,
year, so,
It seems like forever.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this one is actually has more area variances than that application, the previous application. So
Height probably?
no, just a side yard setback, which is, the zero issue that we run into, but also the size of the lots. They don't meet the R1 requirements. So
Are they-
that's R1 zoning over there.
Are they proposing, and of course you haven't seen the actual proposal yet per se, but are they proposing doing away with the 9-point golf course? Or is that just wooded area
That's on the other side.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's on the
not
other
in
side.
the middle.
Yeah.
The middle is just for the area off of.
It's that wooded area that is on
Right,
the,
yeah.
east, south side.
Off of Ruffner. It's on the east side.
On the east side, correct.
East side?
Yeah.
Yeah, east side.
Yeah, on the east side. I think right across from the 9-hole course.
It is right across.
Right across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be any added on the Balltown Road. And I think they've come up with a pretty good idea with their access, because I believe they bought a home on Ruffner.
Mhm.
So, just have to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's a significant amount of area variances.
Yeah.
But we'll start the conversation Monday the 14th on that.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware, because that one will get a lot of public comment. You'll probably get a lot of people reaching out. There's a lot of people who pay a lot of attention to codes and things like that. So
Absolutely.
just want to make sure that the warning's out there that that's going to happen. Again, we can't change what people make in their application. We just have to process it.
Mhm.
So
Get the right to make application, well, you have to go through the grinder.
So is the Broken Inn still, is that project still viable, or did the owner not want to do it?
I guess I'm deferred.
So that's kind of where.
Well, the status of that was that they had an application pending.
Mhm.
While the application was pending, just before the planning board public hearing, the owner of the property reached out to our planning and building department and indicated that they were not okay with the application and asked that it be withdrawn. The tenant wants to move forward with some plan for outside dining. So we did hold the public hearing for public comment, and he has, I guess, submitted a new application for dining that would solely be in the town's right of way and not any portion of it on the property of the,
Landlord.
right.
So they wouldn't need the application wouldn't require the landlord's consent.
Well, we're still looking into that because the landlord, the owner of the property, is still responsible for the sidewalk abutting the property. And then we're also looking into the legality of having outside dining solely in the town's right of way. Because you definitely have to get approval for that, but what would that look like if it's legal? So we're doing the research on it right now, but I don't have the answers for you yet.
What was the concern that line owner had? Did you get
I,
discuss it?
I don't.
yeah, they put it in an email to us. There's a sizable amount of concern, but a lot of it has to do with pushing the parking towards Clifton Park Road and
So it's a parking issue.
well, and also like
Access
concern about access from the parking that's businesses, making sure that all the businesses are being treated fairly, that one business isn't profiting, at the expense of the adjacent businesses. Those, I'd say, were the general.
And I think the other one is the hours of operation.
And the hours of
That's a big
operation.
one.
Yeah,
They wanna
which
change
again,
the hours.
he felt like that was gonna be negatively impacting the adjacent business.
Exactly.
And I guess just the other details from the application standpoint is we keep receiving drawings, not applications. So he hasn't really submitted an application. And then we also keep getting conflicting materials where we'll say, oh, well, I'm not going to try to change the hours of operation. Yet the materials that get submitted have changed hours of operation. So it's very sloppy what the actual plan is. So we're constantly kind of waiting.
And Elaine, I'd imagine if something could be done in the towns right away as far as outdoor dining, is there some kind of insurance policy you could get?
We would grab
That was going to solve that problem.
town wouldn't be bearing that. That would be the tenant would have to have the insurance to the town's benefit. The town is expensive. But there's more to it, and there's a big question as to whether it's legal to have what would be public space to the benefit of one individual, in this case tenant, not even the landowner.
On town property.
Right. So, well, it's the town's right of way, so yeah, it's public space.
And setting precedent too.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
If you guys can just talk kind of as loud as you can, because I don't, what's the timing of the lawnmower? It's gonna be hard to hear the voices with the lawnmower going back and forth.
I could hear when I was.
You could? You could? Okay, good.
Yeah, Laura, I can hear you fine. And they're
Even with
right outside my window. Yep.
Okay.
I would think though that there could be potential to do this. And I think, from my perspective, I think it'd be really beneficial to have the outside dining in that area for the community.
I agree. But hopefully there'll be a way to figure it out.
Hopefully we do.
And there's two owners listed for the property. Do both owners have to be in agreement in the application? Is that
I
a
would
legal
say it
question
has to
also?
at least, it is, I mean, without saying for sure, I would think they would at least have to be the majority, and since it's 50-50, you
Yeah,
don't get
no,
the
I
majority,
agree.
so. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting legal issues that have arisen that it's not as open and shut as some of our other.
So more on that, stay tuned.
To be continued.
To be continued.
Okay, where does that bring us?
So zoning board has 2 cases for October. They're both commercial cases. That's the momentum sign that Kevin was just talking about, the facade sign. And then T-Mobile is also asking for a relief for, a lot of times in Mohawk Commons, when the buildings go up, they have these huge windows and the people plaster stuff to the inside of the window. And we don't regulate it because it's inside the window, so you can do whatever they want inside the store. T-Mobile is unable to put their graphics on the inside of the window, and once it comes to the outside of the window, the town of Messina regulates it. So they're going to the zoning board to see if they can put their graphics on the outside of the window. We'll see.
Where is that one? Is that in,
T-Mobile, it's in Mohawk Commons, right next to.
Panera maybe?
It's on the front side there somewhere.
It is on the building next to Panera.
So it's
Panera's
facing
in the next
Balltown.
building. Facing
Yeah.
Balltown. It's not something that anybody else doesn't do. It's just that it's because they put a wall up where they put it, they can't put it on the inside. So we'll see what the zoning board has to say about that. It's an interesting one.
I don't think it's visible from Balltown unless you look down, right?
You're
If you're
right,
driving on
yeah.
Balltown and you're looking at that sign, you're not looking at the road.
That's
Yeah.
that's true. That's true, because it's right down.
You're high.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, a lot of the businesses use it because, I mean, I love the windows, they look good, but I think like the way that they put their furniture on the inside and stuff, they'll kind of like seal the window with a graphic and then put like a desk to the back of it. So we'll see. Grants update. The LED lights were submitted to NYSERDA. I haven't heard back from them, but I'm hoping to hear from them in a week or two. I know Jamie was just asking. Hopefully, we did get our $5,000 for our compost event like a couple days ago. So once NYSERDA approves the LED light submittal, they'll just mail us the check. So hopefully that comes through very soon. I will keep you updated on that. And Janet's been very helpful. She set up some H accounts for me. So thank you for that, Janet. And then we're also working on updating the benchmarking. It's a benchmarking of the climate smart undertaking that the town took in the original clean energy communities. It's the reason that we got one of the reasons that we got our $100,000 grant. So it's a slow process, but I've been working on moving all of the information for the last 2 years on our energy usage up into the ETA energy portfolio, and then we can study what's been happening with our energy use. I am hopeful that our wastewater treatment plant energy will go down soon. And
So that's basically just a data processing thing when you say benchmark.
yeah, so what it is that you look each year at how much energy you use, and if you've got it in the right type of program, you can benchmark what you had last year
Okay.
versus what you're doing this year. And so hopefully when you change all your lights over to LED, when you get your energy efficient boilers, when you get a zero emission wastewater treatment plant up and running, that your energy usage goes way down. And obviously that reduces your greenhouse gas emissions substantially.
And you could put a dollar sign on that.
And you can put a dollar sign. Yeah, benchmarking is very useful. You can also identify issues, like I've been putting in the sewer treatment pump stations, and every once in a while there's a huge spike in energy use. Dan thinks it's because possibly the power goes out and it's generator.
If it's gas.
If it's gas, yeah. But it's really interesting because you can look over the year and you can see spikes, see if there's something wrong, see if, you know, if your LED conversions are working or where the energy is getting sucked away, like that kind of thing. It's a lot of I sometimes just do it if I'm totally overwhelmed by something and I need a break, then I just start entering the spreadsheets into the, but it takes a while. So I'm working on that one. And then the construction of the Upper Union Street and St. Joseph's, I should be proceeding this year. Upper Union Street again is required. St. Joseph's, I haven't gotten the timeline from the contractor yet, but it does look like he wants to do that this year. So I think I put in you guys' packet the proposal to put a sign out at the parking lot. The newspaper did run an article about this, and I did get a couple comments from people who are concerned about the parking lot being removed. So I've been talking to them. Once I talk to them, they're typically okay. A couple of them didn't realize that Center Road had a parking lot. But you know, Center Road parking lot isn't crowded in the winter and stuff. So I've been working through the changes with people, listening to their comments. And what we want to do is post a map in the area showing the other places you can park and giving people winter suggestions too. And then, you know, just one thing to know in all the conversations I've had with people. I mean, we did look at keeping the parking, but you just can't put a safety crosswalk there and have cars backing out onto River Road into the crosswalks. The movements, they just do not allow cohabitation. They exist right now, but it's very dangerous the way that it is.
It would be counterproductive.
Yeah, and there isn't really another place that you could connect the neighborhoods to the trails, but there are other places that people can park. So I'm trying to be very sensitive and make sure that I'm listening to everybody's comments. But I do think that this is really important. Even, I think 3 days ago, I drive through this intersection quite a bit. There was a bicyclist and a group of high school runners trying to cross there. One car in the oncoming lane had stopped already, and no cars in the other lane were stopped. So obviously, like, I stopped, but it's just like there was like 10 people trying to cross there, and they could only half cross. Like you've got to get something there. Like it has to happen. So, but anyway, I'll put that up. If you guys get any comments on it, refer them to me. I'll put my name on it. Usually, I can convince anybody in the world that this is a really important thing. If they give me enough time.
The crosswalk at Kelts Farm is good, because cars are stopped.
Yeah, as long as they touch the button.
As long as they touch the button,
Sometimes the bikes
yes,
go
yeah.
down.
So,
So this one is a sight line, like this. this is the only place people can cross, but it's also a little bit dangerous for sight lines. But
Yeah.
there isn't anywhere else you can put it. So this one actually has 2 sets of blinky lights. There's one right at the
Yeah, but
crosswalk, and then
what I'm
there's a
saying is.
forward light. Yes.
Yeah. So do people not see if you don't have the lights? Do they
Well-
not see the crosswalk, or
Well,
do
I
they just
mean-
not know?
They just don't use it. I mean, it helps if you use it, because then, it's a warning, right? And
Yeah.
people will stop both ways.
Yeah.
If all of a
But
sudden
you're
you're coming up,
supposed
you
to-
see somebody coming on a bike, are they gonna stop and pause for a minute and check their phone, or are they gonna go
Right,
across?
right,
And they
right.
should hit the button.
Yeah, and I think the flashing
Yeah.
lights reminds the drivers that they
Yeah.
need to take action.
Yeah.
I mean, as
Yeah, that's what
opposed to
it is.
just plowing through.
It doesn't always stop the first car. I know, because I
Yeah.
just by the, but it will eventually stop the car.
Yeah.
Because the lights are going, you sort of put your feet in the crosswalk.
Yeah.
You get a feeling you're doing something wrong when the
Or
lights
you,
are flashing.
or you are, right?
Yeah.
But
Are.
that's the problem. The other one, Laura, I know you were working on Rosendale Road, the other one, down there, what's it, you come down the hill from Route 7. what's it-
Oh, yes, that's
So-
on
So
Rosendale
that
Road,
one
the
blinks all
Flower
the
Hill.
time, so people are immune to it, because it just blinks all the time, you know?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really want to convert that one to a
You
push
gotta really
button.
convert that to, so they're all the same, you know?
On Flower Hill,
Flower
so
Hill,
it's on Rosendale Road, actually near Lions Park, right before those, but the Flower Hill bike path
Right
connection
by the
comes
bridge.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, people noticed it when it first went in, and people were stopping even when there weren't people there, but now, I don't think,
Yeah,
it really needs to
people
be a
get
push
immune to it.
button. So, yeah, so that should be happening, I think I can pull up the schedule for Upper Union, but it looked like it was mostly gonna be November. With very little work in December, so that's good.
Mhm.
Is there paving required?
There is, yes. Yep. And sidewalks. So the Upper Union Street is a replacement of a decent number of sidewalks, like I said, this is like Jamie and I sat for a long time, trying not to go over budget, but getting as much as we possibly could. And, the Upper Union Street's gonna be a nice crosswalk, and then we're doing a bunch of sidewalk on the side. And then we'll be ready for next year. Yeah, so Complete Streets had, I think, kind of a exciting moment within the Una School District. They had met with them a couple of times, trying to get the school district to at least look at the Complete Streets connections to the town of Una's property or to the right of way. And one of the things they had asked them to do is at least get the connections on a map with a possible how much it would cost to do them, and the school district did do that. And they just resubmitted the plans to us a couple of days ago. And and request another meeting, so hopefully we'll be able to sit down with the school and make sure we're all on the same page, so that when, for instance, we try to do this in our own properties, if the school is repaving an entrance and the school's got a Complete Streets, sidewalk connection right there at that entrance, they just wrap it all into the same
Sure.
thing, so that we're all on the same page with how we're connecting our properties for safe routes to school. So that's exciting. And then
Shouldn't be that difficult, should it? To get people on the same page?
I mean, it just takes time and communication. Like, I don't think that they necessarily resisted it. It just took a long time to get it on their plan. But getting it on their plan is, once it's on a piece of paper, people have it in there, like, oh, okay, that sidewalk needs to happen there. We're redoing the entrance to the hillside. Yeah, that all makes sense. It just takes a long time. But Complete Streets never gives up.
No, they're good. I'm sure Bill Chapman will be behind
Bill
it.
Chapman. Yep. And then also Bill Chapman, I think Carla met with the lady on the road. I met with her a couple times. I think it's really to the point where just Elena and I need to work on what a potential easement would look like over there. At the end of the road. The tree councils getting really close to their master plan. They've done everything they could, and they're submitting it now to our consultant, which has actually been on the books for a couple of years now, actually. But hopefully that should be finished and be able to forward to you guys, within the next month or two. And then the results for the big tree hunt are posted on the tree council's website. I wanted to put them together to do an email blast to the town's website. I will try and do that if not today, Monday or Tuesday, but the big tree results are posted, and there were some really big trees submitted. And like I said at the last meeting, some people just submitted the biggest tree in yard, which was still great. Loved it. Want to see as many victories as we can and have people take pride in their victories in this arena. So I'll go so if you can check that out, and I'll try and get an email blast out.
Excellent.
The CAC meets members, but I have two potential candidates for January of 2023. So I should be able to have their names at the next meeting, and then hopefully we can. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully we can get 2 people for January. We really need them. And then Ellen has been working with me on putting wildflowers out in the Lomo initiatives. It might even come in today. And working with Schenectady County Soil and Water Conservation. If we buy the seeds, they'll sow them for us. So I'm just seeing if we still have time to squeeze that in this year and what the budget can be. For Climate Smarts, the Climate Smart grant is ongoing. The Clean Energy Communities work I actually just talked about with the benchmarking. And I did in your packet, I did put a multimodal EV flyer. I sent it to Matt and to Ray. And I learned about this yesterday at the CDTC meeting, or actually Wednesday. They are trying to show people that you can drive more than just electric vehicle cars. So this is actually a multimodal freight demonstration of electric vehicle equipment. So, or it doesn't have to be electric vehicles. Some of it can be hydrogen. Some of the big buses that CDTA runs are like hydrogen powered. So some of the stuff might be hydrogen, but they promised an all electric skid steer, some alternative fuels for like big loaders and other types of freight things. So I think it would be I will try and go. Be really interesting. They recommended if you can get your public works department to go, just so that they can see that there are alternatives to the heavy equipment that we all rely on, and can be, if you get a grant to get these things and they don't need as much maintenance and they don't take as much gas, it can be very cost saving to the town as well. And then just a reminder that the compost day is moved to spring. So, and actually, for the record, anybody can go to that multimodal. So if you know a contractor or someone or anyone, that would be interested, anybody can go down there. It's gonna be cool. Did you want to talk about the ARB, Claire?
There's not much more than that. They were working on the Rosada gas station and Stewart shop a little bit, and we're keeping them in the loop with the Broken Inn as well. Those are kind of their hot projects right now.
So I keep taking this away.
What does Rosado want to do? That's the one, on Union?
Yeah, he wants to build an expansion there. So he's got planning board approval. He received a variance from the ZBA too.
Interior remodel also.
So Jar is going to jump in.
Yeah,
next
I
time
am.
do the
Okay.
CAC.
Yeah, for the CAC, the Comprehensive Plan Committee, we're continuing to meet and get background for the plan. We're working through survey questions that we're going to put out to the town to try to get a sense of what the important issues are. We've gone through the neighborhoods. Each committee member reported back on a particular neighborhood, basically providing their strengths, what's good about the neighborhood, what needs working in the neighborhood, what do we need to change the neighborhood boundaries. So we're starting to work through that. We are working for some presentation that will be presented to the board either December or beginning of January, just to give you an idea of where our direction is going with the comprehensive plan. And the upcoming meeting that we're going to do is we're going to start going through the plan and identifying the big topic items to make sure that they're covered. Some things have changed since 2013.
Thank you, guys.
And how about all that was accomplished?
We are going to work on that because there are a lot of accomplishments. David went through it, I went through it, and it's kind of
Excellent.
surprising. So
Yeah, I
so
bet.
it's always good to take credit.
Yeah, because I think that was a big part of the accomplishments, that last comprehensive plan, especially on the waterfront. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. That was an unexpected success. I think.
no doubt.
And the Flower Hill connection.
Flower Hill connection.
Yeah, there's a lot of
And
them.
even I hear a lot of great compliments about the circle down on River and Rosendale, and that was identified in the 2013 plan as well.
Yeah.
So there's others too.
Yeah.
We just need to-
Yeah, there's a ton, really.
Yeah.
It was a job well done in, was that 2010,
2013.
2013?
Yeah.
We should definitely put a highlight slide together.
Oh, yeah, no, we will.
It's like an opening,
Yeah.
like everything that the town did,
Well, no, it shows that you're basically
working on it.
impacting, you know, what happens to plants. I think
And
it's
following the plan.
following.
Yeah.
So for building department enforcement, at least one of the properties in Overlook Park received a temporary CO. Alina and I are still working on finalizing the parkland deed over there. A couple of notice and orders are out from the building department for junk and debris and stuff like that. And then Clark put together just a regular metric report, which I just think is really good for us, keeps us on task, shows our building permits compared to last year, compared to a 5-year average, shows planning department, planning board resolutions, and shows another one which he sort of added at the end, which I really liked, which was actually like just land acreage developed, so you can get a sense of how much green space we've lost this year versus the last 5 years and stuff like that. We
So
weren't gonna,
maybe we could show that.
Do you
next
wanna
time,
show it?
We're
next
probably
time?
running a little late, I
okay,
would
we'll
guess.
show it next time.
Yeah.
Um,
One thing that did jump out, 2021 was a crazy busy year in the building department. They were way up in building permits. This past year, we're running about 2% above our 5-year average. So we're kind of running really close to the 5-year average from building permits. The other thing that jumps out at it that's a little concerning to me is complaints are really steadily increasing. And I don't know if it's that we're recording them better, but they were up substantially over 2021, and they're up substantially over the year before. So complaints are, you know, I don't know what to make of that. It could, that's usually neighbor complaining about neighbor, but it's just something to look at. And then, yeah, we did look at since 2019 how much land had been either subdivided and then developed with a new home, or developed period in terms of an apartment building or something like that. And about 70 acres out of our 9,600 total acres of land has been developed since 2019.
Clark, would you be willing to sort of talk to that in the CAC? 'Cause I think
Sure,
we
yeah.
would be really interested in that.
I like data, and of course, it always makes you just want to get more data.
No, I find it extremely helpful. and I
It's
think it
extremely
would go in.
helpful.
We have 9,600 acres, and it really, to me, plugs into the NRI. And
Yeah.
of that 9,600 acres, it would be nice to know how much of it is waterways and
Mhm.
how much of it is these pocket parks and things that ASHA talks about.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that 70 acres is only 0.73% of 9,600 acres, but of the real land that's out there.
Oh, yeah,
It
yeah.
would be more
Yeah,
significant.
it'd be interesting to see how much the 70 acres was of the land left.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, it's a drip, constant drip that eventually
Yeah.
leads to substantial
It
loss.
doesn't sound like a lot, but it could be depending on how much that 9,600 acres is
Right.
water and wetlands and water.
I think the
Well,
town
and a lot of it's
has,
developed too. I
the
mean,
town has
yeah.
about 1,000 acres plus or minus 100. I'm pulling from long-term memory. Quote, open space, but that includes schools, that includes town land, that includes parks owned by private individuals and stuff like that. So the school district has a substantial.
Yeah, it's not exactly 70 acres out of 1,000, which is much more significant.
Yeah, there is we did do it like that.
So everything's a balance, and it's just
Yeah.
good to look at it.
Yeah, no.
Plan.
Yeah. So I appreciate Clark putting that together, because I just would tell you that I think that neighbor on neighbor complaints are up, but then there's really data to prove it. And I felt like a lot of it came from people being at home more during COVID and paying more attention to what was going around and just having a shorter fuse. I just feel like in general, the state of affairs with human beings right now is a slightly shorter fuse. So it doesn't really surprise me that the complaints between neighbors are up, but they're definitely up. So from the planning department, I requested a quote for the Council Road sidewalk just to get a sense of how much it would cost and whether or not we can cover it, the engineering of it. What I was thinking of was we had to defer building like the Knott Street sidewalk and stuff like that just for funding. If we can get the Council Road sidewalk engineered, potentially we could wrap that up in another, attempt to do sidewalks again next year or the year after. So
And that would take into account whatever we do with the culvert and the taking of land from the.
So the engineering would take a look at what was needed for that. And I just want to get a quote. If it's, high, I'll have to get a couple quotes. We'll see what it would take to get that sidewalk engineered. And then, been working with all my boards actually on in-person and online training opportunities. 4 of them recently went to Kevin went to an in-person training, which is the first in-person training we've had in 3 years. I heard that it was good.
Excellent.
Very glad that a couple of them could take advantage of that. And then, I forgot to attach the calendar. Clark has been working on the 2023 calendar. He got a straw man up for people to take a look at the dates. I did forget to attach that to this meeting, but I'll email it out after. So take a look and see if you have any comments.
And Susan's really scrubbing too. She's kind of sent it to
Yeah,
me.
they're working on it together. Elena, do you have anything you want to talk about?
Not really. I think the only change since the last meeting was that we had a case that was noticed and ordered and that had been brought to court and was like years coming. We did trial, was awaiting decision on the trial, and the homeowner finally took care and fixed the issue that had been going on for years. So that was a long time coming. I think made some people very happy. So that's really the only update I have.
Including me. And you. Dennis?
Nothing major. The Preservation Commission met for the first time last month. It's
Oh.
mostly meet and greet, but a lot of work in it for that.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
So when we have building permits, should we send them to you and then you'll distribute them to them? How do we want that to
Main-
work?
Building permits that are an issue.
Yeah, that
Yes,
are over
that's probably
50 years
you.
old, we'll just
Yeah.
start emailing them to you. You can be the point of contact and then
Yeah.
you can coordinate with them if anybody has any issues and
Right.
stuff, whether or not we can issue.
Do historical buildings ever fall into the zombie abandoned category? Probably not really.
No, they
Yeah.
do. They definitely do. Sometimes, yeah.
Are they treated any differently? Probably not now, but maybe they will be. With the land bank or no?
I don't know, actually.
There aren't provisions in the memorandum of understanding to change the timelines based on historic preservation, and I don't know why you would necessarily, because being vacant and abandoned is a sort of separate issue from being historical. But where I think that would be important is if it went into foreclosure at the county level and the town had any ability to say, like, what the next steps were for that property, is that we would discourage the demolition and really push towards, renovation of
Right,
the historic
right, right,
properties.
Well, would it go into the regulatory, structure that we put into the town?
Yeah, it would.
So if they're gonna demo it, then it would end up
Okay. Right, right.
going through the review process anyway.
But I can actually think of at least one property that was pretty historic and, well, the Kelts Farm building, actually. That one had been abandoned and was deemed by the developer to not be able to be rehabbed, so he took it down, But that was prior to any historic code we had, but that was kind of that sort of dark house that was across from Blatney Park for a long time.
Well, the barn was taken down by the owners now.
The owners
That
said-
would sold the wood, right? They sold the wood, but that would have been fallen under the ordinance.
All of that would have fallen under the new ordinance. Like, we would have been able to at least take pictures of it and document it before it had to come down. Yeah. But we just didn't have that in place when that building, but that one was vacant and abandoned for many years. Like, yeah, that's what happens.
All right. Is there anything further for the good of the order?
Voting on the minutes. I don't think we did that to begin the meeting.
Oh, we did.
On the October 7th minutes?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Okay. I thought we did.
Yeah, I think you were escorting David out.
Understood.
Okay, seeing none, I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Thanks, Janet. Thanks, Jean.
All right.
Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.